Hey guys, what's up? My name is Michael. I'm a music producer that's signed with Sony, and here's everything I do to make a living from my music. So I realized I probably should have made a list on my phone here, but we're just kind of freeball it. So I'm gonna go through everything that I do to make money from my music, kind of going from streaming to merch to different other income sources. So if you don't want to skip ahead, I'm gonna have timestamps down below, but let's dive in. So the first one is streaming. So a good portion of my money does come from streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music. I had a bunch of artist projects that I had before signing with Sony that are still generating some cash flow. I think I have around 4 to 5 different artist projects that I'm a part of. All of those get sent through DistroKid. I get a royalty check every month. Definitely gone down in terms of value, but I think in the past year, probably like 10 to 20K worth of income from that. Number 2 is sync licensing. So I'm actually partnered with a bunch of different libraries like Sony Extreme, Flick Tracks, Crucial Music, a bunch of different libraries out there. And I'm sending my music to them for different briefs and for different opportunities. When those get placements, I do see a initial fee plus any sort of back-end royalties. With Sony Extreme, I'm only really seeing, my pure royalties from ASCAP or BMI. Though like I mentioned before, for sync licensing, it really depends on which libraries are actually placing your tracks and how their deals are structured. For example, if I do get placed in a trailer by Amazon, I would get paid a upfront fee as well as any other back-end PRO royalties that would be generated versus TV, which is going to be mainly PRO royalties. So with TV, it's really a quantity kind of game where it's like, hey, if I can get down to 50 to 100 shows that are generating a good enough viewership, I'm going to see more money from that versus getting on 1 or 2 TV shows where they might get viewed once or twice and that's it. So just keeping that in mind whenever you are pitching your stuff to sync licensing. The third one is TikTok. So I actually do make a decent amount of money from TikTok, either from sponsored posts, from doing live feedback sessions, as well as just getting the creator fund on TikTok. I think you have to have at least 10,000 followers in order to get opted for it, but any video that's longer than a minute, you can get a royalty paid for that. I don't really see a ton of money from that creator fund just because a lot of the content I make is pretty short and sweet and under a minute. For the stuff I do that's a little bit longer, the viewership definitely does drop off, so I've been trying to work on that and getting more of those videos out there, but it does get a decent amount of income and I get money paid for every sponsored post I put out. So the fourth one is artist tools. So this is everything that I've made and generated for artists around my size, and I'm like, hey, this is something I made for myself a long time ago. I think it's really beneficial for you. Split sheets, checklists, Notion templates, anything to kind of help you in your artist journey. So make a decent amount of money from that. I have a cool catalog spreadsheet I actually spent, I think like a month making. That's really easy to use and it makes it a lot easier to register your stuff with SoundExchange and keep all your royalties and songs in one spot. So click the link in my bio, my shameless plug for the video, but it helps you a lot, saves you a lot of time, and makes the registration a lot easier, which is always good. Number 5 is affiliates. So I do get paid initially for these sponsored posts as well as getting some affiliate links. For example, I know DistroKid gives like a 7% discount, which I don't know if anyone actually does that, but DistroKid, Songtrust, SonarWorks, Karani Sound, a bunch of different platforms that I have like a sponsored post with, they usually do some sort of affiliate linking where it's like, hey, put this affiliate link in your description. If someone buys something through that link, you get paid, 10, 15 bucks, whatever they purchase. So get a decent amount of money from that as well. Number 6 is Thematic. Thematic is a library that I've been with for I think 4 to 5 years at this point, but essentially what they do is provide music for YouTubers and other content creators for free, quote unquote free. How this works is you submit your songs to this library, they go through a staging and kind of vetting process. Once your song is approved, it gets added to this library where creators can use a song, but they have to credit you in the description of whatever video, whatever post that they do. You're not seeing money from that, but these songs get registered with Thematic's content ID system with YouTube, meaning that anyone that isn't paying for Thematic and uses your song, you get a royalty content ID rate from them directly. And just to be completely honest, it's not going to be life-changing money from this. I have a side lo-fi project that I spend maybe a couple hours on every month to just like make a bunch of beats, schedule them for upload and just be done with it. All those tracks I put into Thematic's library because I'm like, hey, if I can generate, 40, 50 bucks from a song I spend an hour on, that's great to me. So a lot of that money I do see from that project alone. In general, it goes in ranges from around 50 to 80 bucks a month, I think, passively without having to do anything. And the nice part is any fans that do actually like the songs can find me on Spotify, leading up to a little bit more streams there. And something to keep in mind too is that Thematic is free for artists. You do not need a paid account to submit. You just got to sign up and make sure all your socials and everything are linked together. I personally have one overarching umbrella artist project for any song that I upload. I have like 2 or 3 artist projects that are uploaded under it. Just makes it easier for me and makes it easier for withdrawing the money when I do earn it. I think we're at 7 at this point. So 7 is Scraps. So Scraps is a platform that I got introduced to, I think 2 to 3 years ago. It's been a while at this point, but basically what they do is they sell project files. So if you are an Ableton producer, Logic producer, FL Studio producer, whatever you want to do, you can sell your old project files to this company and basically say, hey, like here's like a template of like a funk track. Here's a template for an EDM house track that I made a while ago. Basically, people can spend credits to download these packs and can get access to these project files and giving them the access to the samples, presets, arrangement. So it's easier for them to actually create their songs. In general, it's been pretty small. I haven't really spent a ton of time investing and diving into it, but I've seen a decent amount of sales just through passively uploading old project files from another artist project I had. And one thing to keep in mind for this is that you're not selling the copyright of your track. You are literally just sending the project file. So keep in mind that if you do plan to sell on this platform, don't use any samples that are unclear. Don't use anything from Splice. Make sure that you have ownership of everything. And that goes for presets as well. Make sure you're not just like uploading like the Sam Smyers, melodic techno presets into your project file and calling it yours. Avoid that if you possibly can. Can't get your project file removed from the marketplace. And number 8 kind of relates to sync licensing, but this is selling your catalog to a music production library. And the only difference for this is that you are getting an upfront fee, and then that library is now taking ownership of whatever track you do send them. There are a few different sync libraries that operate this way because for them, it makes more sense to just give the initial investment and then whatever licensing fees or whatever placements that they get to pocket. So I've done some where they pay like $100 per song. I think the most I was being paid was like $300 per song. But these songs, for me at least, I'm only spending 2 to 3 hours to make them. I'm really just looking for like, hey, if I can push these out fast and quick, that's really what I want to do. So with these songs that do get selected, I relinquish all my rights to them and give them fully to that platform and fully to that library so that they can do whatever they want to do with it. I still get PR or royalties, so I can see on my statement like, hey, this song was used maybe here. Great, cool. I'm getting, maybe 10, 15 cents on my PRO statement, which is still something to keep in mind. So number 9 is one of the biggest ones, but is working directly with artists. And the way this works is my A&R team is sending me different briefs every week on, hey, here's a project, here's an artist that's looking for these types of songs, here's a due date, if you can get something to us, great, amazing. So the way this works is that brief writing is solely like doing a job interview where you're pitching something that you think it might work for that project for that artist, but you're not guaranteed. So the way that brief writing works is that you're getting an artist name, a due date, and references on what they want you to make. And sometimes the briefs are nice where they include a lot more details, but a lot of times it's very, very vague and it's really hard to tell what exactly they're asking for. So after reading your brief, what I'll do is sketch a couple ideas, work through them, and if I need to, I'll get another producer on to finish the track with me, and then we'll find a top liner. For those that don't know, top liners are the people that either write or sing or do both on a track. And typically for K-pop, they do both. They're the top liner as well as the lyricist. So once the track is finished, we'll send it to a top liner. They'll do their thing, record vocals, we'll get the vocals back, mix it, get it ready in a full packaged track that sounds professionally done. These aren't demos. They're not looking for a partial like, hey, this is like a general idea of like what I want. It should sound ready to release. It just sounds like you can press upload on DistroKid and you're ready to go. So once the song is done, I send the song to my A&R team like, hey, here's the splits, here's all the information about the track. Hopefully we get the placement. So what ends up happening is that this team will then get the track, send it to the label with a bunch of others that are getting sent by the team. And they'll just see like, hey, like, does any of these fit what you're looking for? If they have any revision requests by the label, that will get sent back to us and then work on. But usually the next step is getting a hold request. So the way hold requests work is the label is saying, hey, we like the track enough, but we don't know if we really want to pursue it. So give us a 3-month holding period to keep the track and to potentially license it for our artist. So something to keep in mind is that this hold request is just a hold request. You're not getting paid the money directly. You're not getting a guarantee that the song is going to get picked. I've had a few hold requests in the past where it's like, oh my God, hopefully they pick this song. And then they don't, which is just how it works. Goals change. They can change the objective of the album. I was working on one project for this big girl group, and then we found out that they wanted to change the album direction completely. So this was definitely like, oh man, like what? I wish they had picked it, but that's just kind of how it works. It's fully based on like spec work. For those that don't know, spec work is speculative work where you're working and you're putting in effort, but you're not getting paid for it directly. You might get paid if you got a placement later on. But if you're lucky to have it happen, you can get a placement for your track. The way this works is that you're paid 2 different times. You're paid initially for the production fee, which mostly goes to the producer and partially for the top liners and the lyricists, and then the PR royalties, which you'll see around 12 to 18 months after the track is already out. And the reason why there's such a big delay is because with foreign territories, each different registration point takes around 6 to 12 months to get those royalties processed. So for example, if a song is streamed in Korea, they would wait for Comca to report, hey, this song was streamed 1 million times. They would then talk to ASCAP or BMI, whatever US subsidiary you are, and they would say, hey, this song was streamed this many times. ASCAP would then spend the next 6 to 12 months processing that, and then you would get paid by your publishing company. So ASCAP would then send that to Sony, which would then send that to the record label, which would then send that to us. So It does take a while. You know, I'm finally getting paid for a Japanese release that I got in 2024, I believe, or 2023. So it does take a really long time. You might not see any money for a while. It's still there. Don't worry. It just takes a really long time to see it because of all the kind of red tape and slugginess of the industry. But for those curious, that's the way that Korea as well as Japan works. With China, it's a little bit different. So China, I've had a couple placements with Chinese artists. The way it works is that you're basically getting paid a one-time flat buyout fee. Very similar to the production library I was talking about earlier, I think for number 7 or 8. You're just getting paid once. So you're getting paid for the master recording as well as the publishing on the back end. China does not have a PRO, so there's no way for them to do back end royalties. So the way they counter this is just say, hey, we'll give you like $10,000, we get to keep the song. So for a lot of creators that focus on mainly the Asia space, a lot of times they'll be pitching to Korea first, then Japan, and then for any songs that don't land in one of those two territories within like a year to 2 years, then they look at China because it's like, hey, I spent time on this track, I want to get you somewhere. I'd rather take $10,000 for the track versus having nothing and having it sit on a hard drive. So that's what ends up happening for a lot of people. You can still see some growth from China, but like until they get royalties figured out. So those are all the different ways I make money from my music. Obviously there's a lot, but as a music producer and as someone that wants to be self-sustaining from my music, you got to make sure that you have multiple sources of income because sometimes if one thing slows down, you want other things to catch up and support you. Comment down below on what you do to make money from your music and like and follow for more music business content. Peace.